Yes, we go. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's my true pleasure to welcome you back to this webinar series. Now it's webinar 7. And before we start the session, I would like to do an acknowledgement of the country. The Australia-ASEAN Academic Forum Online Education during COVID-19 and beyond acknowledges the traditional owners of the land where this program was developed, the Palawa people of the Latruwita Nations. We pay respects to the traditional owners, to elders past, present, and emerging of the land on which all the University of Tasmania campuses stands. On behalf of the University of Tasmania, we acknowledge all countries participating in this forum and also acknowledge their elders and ancestors and their legacies to us. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands where our partners and participants live and work across Australia and Southeast Asia. Today, we welcome two speakers from Indonesia and the Philippines. So the first speakers today is Maharida Maninda. She's from the University Muhammadiyah Makassar, and she currently a PhD candidate at Hasanuddin University, and she has a great interest in education and pedagogic science, educational psychology. We let her to be really involved in domestic and foreign social activities and writing. So now, Maharida, it's over to you, and we really look forward to hearing what you had to say today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Finn. So this is a great opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon from Makassar, Indonesia. And Pak Dian, Ibu Masita, and the other colleagues probably very familiar with Makassar area. And then also the other speakers and also my colleague from Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar that attended our session today. So because I saw the schedule I have and my Pak Wahyudin have time around 40 minutes to present our slides today. And before that, I'd like to give a highlight. First of all, actually, this is the 7th conference, and we just have the opportunity to have the 7th conference just today, because on the 6th last time, actually we have we also have the invitation, but we were passively interact during the conference, and then in the 7th Australia-ASEAN Academics Forum, and we decided to step up, and then we joined this program. So the second one, we also have the students from our university as well, from master study program and also bachelor degree. I believe that more students will join. And I also acknowledge that one of the Vice Dean 3 from Agriculture Department is joined with us today. So this is a really great opportunity once again. So allow me to share my screen. Before I start my presentation, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to introduce my campus. I hope it's okay. So a little bit about Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar. So Muhammadiyah organization is a very huge Islamic organization in Indonesia. Currently, we have 170 Muhammadiyah higher education across Indonesia, and then one in Malaysia. So this 170 Muhammadiyah higher education enable the Muhammadiyah higher education to have a very strong collaboration, especially in empowering the research, community service, and also more positive activity across Muhammadiyah higher education. Besides that, we also open for many, we also open for welcoming our partners, and also any opportunities for having the collaboration in the 4 areas: community service, research, collaboration, education, and anything regarding for the students' development. So this is a really good opportunity. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the map of Indonesia. It is a very huge country. And where is Makassar? Makassar is here in here. This is Makassar. So it's a mostly people will be very familiar with Bali, Jakarta, Surabaya, or Java Island. But it's really good try when you'd like to put on your list Sulawesi Island in your list, and also in the northern part. And then we also offer a lot of opportunities, not only in Muhammadiyah higher education in Sulawesi Island or in Makassar, but also in terms of education in northern part, we are also have a qualification for that. So this is Makassar, Sulawesi Island, and we are here. It's pretty close from Australia anyway. Transit to Bali and then to Australia. And then this is our university, Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar, very familiar with the blue campus. And then in Universitas Muhammadiyah Makassar, currently we have 8 faculties. One of them is a faculty of teacher training and education, where is my work unit currently in the education, in the field of education, with across 52 study programs. And we have diploma 3, bachelor degree, master degree, and doctorate degree. This is our campus, and let's jump up to the presentation. So our title will be the application of the collaborative learning to improve students' forces skills. So the area of this research is a focus on mathematics education, or math. And this research we conducted before and during the COVID-19, and then we still continue after the pandemic COVID-19. And regarding to this one, speaking of the collaborative learning, it's something familiar, and I believe that mostly our colleagues and also the scholars, lecturers, even the teachers at schools already apply this. And then the question is coming that, why then, if this is familiar, why it becomes so very interesting for us to discuss about this and making this as a paper, as a scope for our research? Because 2 interesting things. First of all, in fact, still at school and also in the students, because under faculty of teacher training, we are training the students to be the teacher's candidate in the future. And then we still find out a gap between the expectation and then reality. And then the second one, even if the collaborative learning already applied by many lecturers, by many teachers at school or even in the class, then why the result in certain areas at school, for example, is still low? And then we are interested to see more, to dive more in depth, to see what are actually the gap and how we address that. And then we were coming into this background that we believe that collaborative learning is the answer for the issue that we currently have, because the collaborative learning enable the students to be able to work with themselves, and then after that, the result that they will share with their students. But collaborative learning as well is not as simple as we think, as the concept, as the theory. We realize that in one classroom, the students have their own level of their learning. They have their own pace. They have their own abilities. So we couldn't state that in one class with 30 students, and we like to generalize, and we say that, well, they have average ability, and they can all of them can solve the math issue or math task. But unfortunately, we as a matter of fact, it didn't work like that. The diversity of the ability of the students in the classroom, on the other side, can be the opportunity and can be a threat. So working with students, it happens as well, but working with the students who gonna be the teachers in the futures is also become a problem, an issue. So we know that there's a need, and in Indonesia generally, and in Makassar specifically, we are required to be able to produce the alumni or the graduate that we have the ability with math and teaching pedagogic skills, and then also they are able to manage the classroom. And it sounds too good to be true. But one thing that we need to emphasize as our responsibility as a lecturers in a faculty of teacher training is basically to introduce and to apply this to our students about collaborative learning, and whether they can apply this or in the future they can apply when they become a teacher. But before that, let's see how the result of our research are able to answer this problem. So based on this content, we know that some of the theory and also what skills the students need to answer the need in the future, what are the challenges and how to go out from this challenge. We provide the content that I will not read through with this, but we'll give the overview regarding to the background of this research. And then we would like to see that we agree based also on some of the articles and also the papers, scientific papers that support this research when we speak about the collaborative learning model. But the thing that we would like to highlight here is number 3, about the highlights. From all the advantages of collaborative learning that it has. So number 1, it has the opportunity. The opportunity means here that the students in the classroom are able to express their idea and thought in person, and then later on they are able to what we call as a mingle with the other students or their classmates, working together in the group, and they can share their idea and thoughts. It also gives them opportunity to synchronize their idea or thoughts, for sure the presentation skill, and it also enabled to have group and individual assessment, and for sure the overall feedback. So the question later on, for these 5 highlights during our research, so sometimes in the second meeting we got 3 highlights only, and then the next 2 meetings we got 2, and then at the end of the meeting we get 4. So this is vary, but overall based on this concept, this is particularly I would like to say that we need more research in the future to expand this. But regarding to this highlight, we found it it's not every time it happenings, or we found in the class could be 3 highlights, could be 4, something like that. So this slide particularly explain about the benefit, the concept, and then the theory about collaborative learning. But again, with all the theory and the concept that it has, collaborative learning is pretty recommended. And the next one, this is the research methodology. We involve also the students to be our partners in the classroom. It is a pretty hands-on research. So by testing, by having this one in the classroom, so my colleague, Pak Dr. Wahyudin, will be collecting the data and also did the pre-test, treatment, and post-test. So the way we conducted the data is having the experimental research, where we giving a test as a pre-test to know the initial ability of the students, and then we taught in the classroom with a lesson plan, hands-on material, meeting with the students, and then documenting the process, and then the last one we do the post test. We did the post test. So as we know that in under Faculty of Teacher Training, we have 11 study programs. One of them is the mathematics study program, education study program. We choose mathematics education study program because this is one of the study program that require the students to solve the mathematics issue, and also how to say that, deal with the counting and deal with number, and it also needs some of methodology that enable the students in the classroom are able to express their opinion, their idea, and then after and put them in group. So the correct way, that's why we choose mathematics education study program. But the current research that we are conducting now is not only focusing on mathematics education study program, but we are going to have this also in the English education, even in the medical faculty, to see that how is the collaborative learning works. So in this part, after having a research regarding to this, we have the number after giving the instrument like a test to the students, as we explained on the earlier slide, that we have a pre-test and having a treatment or teaching in the classroom, applying the methodology, applying the models, and then we have a post-test to know the result of the treatment. And now we have this one. So there is in terms of number, the significant improvement is not that there was an improvement, but not really like we call as a leap. It's just a quite, we can say only 13 point, something like that. That's not really huge, but at least we could say that by applying the collaborative learning models, there is an improvement. If we see the number here, from 70 to, so from 70 and 83, it's only 13 or 13, something like that. It's not too huge, too big, but again, this is a very positive after giving the treatment. And then we have a minimum completeness criteria, or KKM, is 75. So KKM is one of the indicator that mostly in Indonesian teachers, we use this to measure the successfulness of teaching in one particular subject in the classroom, and measure this, the teaching succeed or the outcomes by using minimum completeness criteria, or we call as a kriteria ketuntasan minimal in bahasa. So the range between 10 to 100, correct me if I'm wrong. And then if we see the number here is 75. So from the scale 0, 10 to 100, because 100 is the maximum number of the minimum completeness criteria, 75 is quite high by having this one. So in these findings, we also found out that by implementing a collaborative learning model, it is possible to create new experience for the students in terms of knowledge, skills, and competencies for the students themselves. So what does that mean? Because the collaborative learning enables them to work on group, but we need to separate between working group without control and then working in group with control, with a teacher supervisor, I mean. The role of the teachers here in supervising the students during in the collaborative learning is a very vital. And then we cannot just allow them put in the group and then we left them or abandon them and do our things, but also we be there, assist them side by side, and then see, helping them. It gives a really big contribution for these findings. So what we would like to say is the collaborative learning models is one of the best, very recommended, but these models or any kind of methodology in the classroom will be 10 times, will be 100 times more powerful when the role of the teachers as a supervisors or as the facilitator are also maximal. But if not, even the best technique ever, but the facilitators or the lecturers couldn't integrate their ability or couldn't unite on that methodology or model, it will not give a maximum result. So when we see the number here between the pre-test and the post-test, the model that we apply in the classroom, again, we would like to say that the role, again, the facilitator of teacher is very important. And then at the last recommendation for the future, based on the research, it could be applied for this model, or it could be applied for the others methodology and models. Number one, the lesson plan should or be well planned and well organized. So we know that as a lecturers in the classroom, the time to prepare our lesson plan and also the material is longer than the actual class when we are in the classroom, the actual hours where we in the classroom. So I believe that we also deal with this. So the successfulness of this model is basically in the recommendation in the future. So the lesson plan that teacher would like to do should well planned and well organized, especially for if you'd like to integrate the content into the lesson plan. It should be follow the trend right now, like the technology, like the topic. Our generation tend to they like to talk about music, fashion, social media. So in Indonesia, in Makassar case, sometimes we found out they still put the story like Cinderella, and then we found out this topic about Cinderella, and we'd like to integrate that in the millennium area like this, like the generation Z, Z generation. We found there is no correlation. The students tend not really interested with the typical of story like that. But when we integrate that technology, social media, and something that we can talk about the worldwide topic, the students have a more interest on that. Number two, the future recommendation is the role of teacher cannot be fully facilitator oriented. The case that we found, collaborative learning model will be, we don't want to compare anyway, but we found in the field that we know that the role of the facilitator only giving direction to the students, and then that is the ideal one. But for the case of the students that like we have here, those facilitator cannot be fully practiced or cannot be fully implemented, because the level of our students still needs a detailed guidance, even even for a very small thing, explaining many times about the topic and then giving repetitive explanation. So the role of facilitator and then the facilitator for our perspective from this research should be advanced students. But for this one, if you'd like to apply the collaborative learning model, should be, if you'd like to apply on the second or the third semester students, it's a preferable the lecturer should in charge fully there, explain rather than giving the direction. So should be there should more separate level in terms of applying the collaborative model. Number three, repetitive and sustained. So in order to make this model or this technique, even all the technique, repetitive and sustained, doing today, next meeting do it again, at the third meeting do it again, and then try more method, try more repetitive this one into the same class in all the semesters will be very beneficial. Not only 2, not only 3, not only 4 times and then stop. So it should be done continuously. Number 4, co-teachers are needed. So collaborative learning method, even though in the theory state that it will enable the students to be able to work on group with their peers, and they are enabled them to give they are enabled themselves to be able to express their thought. Trust me, this is quite drain class when you handle the class alone by applying the collaborative method. In fact, in theory, again, I stated that they say it's easy to apply, but for our perspective, the co-teachers are needed to help and to assist the process and learning and teaching process in the classroom. Because again, in our case, by having 1 or 2 or maybe 3 co-teachers will help to accommodate the groups in the classroom and also the different level of their ability. So this is the finding that we got from this research that we would like to share today. Hopefully this is very fruitful for our meeting and for this conference. And hopefully by this recommendation, we can have a more research specifically for math and also for education. I know that this is quite far from the technology thing, like what we are going to hear from our colleague later on in the second session. This is sounds very still in the classroom and then deal with all the students. So currently, idea or the insight from next researchers, hopefully that we can integrate not only for collaboration or collaborative learning model, but also with the other technique or the other model. So this is our international office. You can contact us, Dr. Finn. So if any invitation or conference and anything, please share with us. I think that's all for our presentation. Thank you, Dr. Finn, and all the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Maharida for a really interesting presentation. And I think you touched on a very important topic in education, collaborative learning. It's really important, right? After the teacher does the modeling, and then this is a very important step to ensure that we provided a good scaffolding for the student. So now it's really interesting. So now I'll open up to the discussion to other participants. So the questions from Masita. Do you have sample of the pre and post text and lesson plans that you can share with us?
Yes, doctor, I will share with you. And then it seems, my colleague, Pak Dr. Wahyudin already here as our lead researcher. Pak Wahyu nanti bisa di-share ya hasil pre and post testnya, silahkan Pak.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you very much. Maharida and Masita, please follow up with Maharida after the session. The next questions, I would like to invite Diane. Would you like to speak up?
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam Pak Dian, Pak Dayan.
Dian.
Pak Dian ya.
Yeah. I want to ask about the research method. Yeah, this is a different method with Maharida, but I don't see about the end gain. Yeah, how normalize gain that Mrs. Maharida just saw the number in the finding. In my campus, that we use pretest post test to find a enhancement atau peningkatan. But I don't find about that in finding on Mrs. Maharida research. Maybe that just a different method that used in our campus. Maybe Mrs. Maharida can explain about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we are going to attach the information along with the pre and post test, including the result and the instrument and the calculation, the result of the end test and gain, and also how to say that, the post test, the pre test, and gain. We are going to attach this together. For a sec. Pak Wahyu, nanti bisa dibantu Pak ya? Ya, go ahead, Dr. Finn.
Does that answer your question, Dian?
We are going to attach that later on. Let me collaborate with Pak Wahyu first.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, that's good. Thank you very much. So we got another question in the chat spot from N. Thank you, Maharida, for the detailed presentation on collaboration. How often do you think we must have collaboration strategies in our class to see the benefit and the positive impact of such method? Because in more cases, teachers in the classroom can feel rushed to complete the syllabus most of the time. Good question. Over to you.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so as we explained on the slide, that this topic or of these models or this technique should be done repetitively. So every time in the meeting anyway. Sometimes we didn't aware in what we didn't aware about the model that we apply in the classroom, but actually went in a very basic definition of collaborative learning when we allow the students to be able to share their idea and their thoughts, their partners or their classmates, that is actually collaborative idea or the collaborative learning method. But again, to answer this one, should be repetitively. So for example, in the second semester, in the second and the fourth semester where we conducted this research, we couldn't do that only for twice meeting or only 3 times meeting. It should be conducted in the certain topics where they in the certain topics they work together for this meeting, and then the next week will be present, and then the next week we'll be working on another topic, and then we are going to apply again. So again, Ain, it should be repetitively and continuously done. It depends on it actually depends on the topic, but for math mostly we need this one. But for English, especially for the English, there is a particular topic that they don't need this. They don't need collaborative learning model in the classroom. Let's say when we teach them in the topic about cross-culture understanding, we didn't apply this. But for certain topics, for sure, we need to apply this one. But again, that I partially agree as well, because you say because most cases teachers in a classroom can feel rushed to complete the syllabus most of the time. I agree with that anyway. So tend to focus step by step or finish one topic to one topic. Seems like we are chased by the deadline or the deadline chase us. That's all. While we are waiting the data from my colleague, Pak Wahyu, to present the data about pre-test and post-test and also the end gain. Dr. Finn?
Thank you, Maharida. I actually have a question. Sorry if I missed out anything else, but I was wondering about the theoretical framework that underpins the collaborative learning model that you use in your research.
Right. So allow me again to share our presentation. Oh, hold a sec. We will have insight about the theory. Hold a sec. So here is I hope that it's displayed right now. So this is the background that we put on slide in a very simple way to see the theory that support about collaborative models. And also in this part, we got the theory from Piaget, Vygotsky, collaborative learning, and then some experts that we cited regarding to this. And then because my colleague Pak Wahyu here, Pak Wahyu, Tabe, ini ada pertanyaan dari Ibu Masita dengan Pak Dian. Sekiranya nanti bisa ditampilkan hasil dari tes dan post-tes, pre-tes dan post-tes yang sudah dilakukan, termasuk perhitungan endgain-nya. Silahkan Pak Wahyu.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And actually, yeah, you touched on Vygotsky, Piaget, and yeah, and there is, yeah, that's great. And then there's a framework called gradual release of responsibility. It's also involved collaborative learning. So it's great to see some theories there. Excellent. Thank you, Maharida. Is there anything else everyone would like to ask? Any comments or questions? Or that's enough? Okay, well done, Maharita. Your presentation, and thanks everyone for your comments and questions.
Sure.
So,
yeah, because we still have one more question we need to answer from Ibu Masita and Pak Dian. Pak Wahyu bisa ditampilin hasil datanya pre and post testnya enggak? Dengan perhitungan datanya. Pak Wahyu. Okay, go ahead Ibu, and after this we'll share the pre-test and post-test result. Go ahead, Dr. Finn, sorry for interrupt.
Okay, that's okay. So you will send through some things to share with the participant, right? So yeah, let's get in touch by email, and you can share some more resources. Oh, thank you, Maharida. So now it's my true pleasure to introduce the next speakers today. Dr. Joseph Salawa from the Department of English and Comparative Literature at the University of the Philippines. He will be presenting on a really interesting topic. And as I said earlier, he was very well prepared and wanted to re-record his presentation in advance last night. So now I'm going to play the video so all of us can
are you going to play the video? Or...
You play it. Good. So you go ahead, Joseph.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Can you just tell me if you can hear the audio? Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today and giving me this opportunity to discuss the physical learning environments in online education and explore how students make sense of their setup during this period of adaptation to online learning strategies. The title of my study is The Heterotopic Spaces of Online Learning, Coping Mechanisms of Students in a Philippine University. This study focuses on students from the University of the Philippines, where I teach courses in English and literature. Originally, the project aimed to provide a specific description of how students construct their physical spaces. However, as I engage in more conversations with some students, the project evolved to become more conceptually engaged, abandoning the descriptive aspect of the project, which initially aimed to make an accounting of student spaces in favor of more analytical accounts of human relations and how this has influenced the construction of these spaces. The rationale for this study is twofold. First, it aims to consider more inclusive physical conditions that reflect the diverse background of students. To make online learning more effective, we must recognize the varied physical environments students come from, allowing us to move beyond the traditional classroom setup and embrace the unique learning spaces that they navigate. Second, this study seeks to expand the concept of online learning beyond the challenges of content delivery. Rethinking physical spaces can simultaneously challenge and strengthen our pedagogical approaches so that it may embrace diverse study conditions that can allow us to tap into the power of the imagination and our resourcefulness so that we can stimulate creativity and collaboration in these kinds of workplaces. But along with these opportunities are risks, and the study will also lay out some of the potential risks and concerns associated with online learning that we are only beginning to realize. The study was conducted in two phases and involved two methods. First, online surveys were administered to gather pertinent information about the physical spaces students utilize. The survey questions covered a range of topics, including demographic information, the students' ages, gender, location, year levels, a description of learning environments that give us a picture of their study conditions, the furniture and equipment that they used, whether they had dedicated study areas. This also included their preferred study times, whether they were studying alone or with others, and any equipment acquired to enhance the online learning experience. Consideration was given to various distractions as well, including noise, weather, chores, other household members, and even pets that might interfere with the learning experience. Also, we looked at innovation and adaptation strategies, the mechanisms students developed to cope with online learning, whether they felt in control of their learning spaces and their perceptions regarding the sustainability of online learning beyond the pandemic. Second, we also had semi-structured interviews, which were conducted with a select group of students who had consented to be contacted after the survey period. These interviews aim to delve deeper into students' experiences with online learning spaces, providing an opportunity for open-ended discussions. The interviews provided insights that go beyond survey results and highlighted factors that may not be prominent among the majority but are crucial to understand the experiences of minority groups. Focusing on these outliers or minority perspectives is important to ensure their needs are addressed, which may otherwise be overlooked in favor of the larger population. In terms of research done in this field, it seems like there have been a lot. The Philippine e-journal's website, for example, lists over 1,900 articles published locally between 2020 to 2022. However, not one of these really delve into correlating notions of space with the different realities of online learning. Instead, these studies focus predominantly on topics like the psychological repercussions of having to shift to online learning, technological access, national and local government policies, pedagogy and the effectiveness of different online learning strategies, and also the assessment of resources and infrastructure. It is also difficult to consolidate numbers and data at this stage because they vary immensely. For example, government and national studies tend to downplay a lot of information pertaining to access and infrastructure, even arguing that existing resources for online learning are adequate and over-glorifying narratives of resilience and strength. Meanwhile, local studies, especially those coming from very specific rural areas, often argue for lack of critical government support, weak enforcement of policies, and are more critical towards the inadequate measures in implementing and experimenting with online learning. Despite the lack of consensus, there are discernible themes that offer a starting point to understand common issues affecting student spaces. One of these themes is access, which encompasses various interconnected factors impeding the online learning experience. Limited connectivity, particularly in rural areas, poses a significant obstacle to participation and access to education. This problem affects everyone, including teachers, as highlighted in the news report that you see there in the middle. News reports of educators in provinces climbing rooftops to access mobile internet so that they may post lessons and online activities. This was met with lots of adverse government reactions, downplaying such reports as false and defamatory, claiming that these were meant to destabilize government's efforts. Nonetheless, unequal infrastructure development, including unreliable power supply and limited network coverage, further compounds the access problem. Additionally, socioeconomic disparities exacerbate these challenges, with lower income communities facing greater obstacles. Another aspect of the discourse on online spaces revolves around noise management. In Filipino culture, noise is prevalent, and the particular issue that has sparked extensive public debate is the regulation of karaoke singing. While karaoke and singing in general hold significance in Filipino culture, it also poses a disturbance to online learning and even to professionals working from home. Throughout the pandemic, the prohibition of karaoke singing has been a contentious public topic. It was first banned in Manila in October 2020, and subsequently other cities and towns across the country followed suit by enacting different local laws to restrict karaoke singing during specific hours in an attempt to make online learning and work from home activities more productive. However, the enforcement of the karaoke ban highlights a significant divide in the policies implemented by local and national governments, particularly concerning the underprivileged and unemployed sectors whom were heavily affected by the pandemic's economic consequences. The ban affects individuals who have turned to karaoke singing as a means of coping with loss of jobs and primary sources of income. For many of these individuals, karaoke singing provides solace and stress relief, helping them navigate the challenges and frustrations resulting from their unemployment. The ban on karaoke can be viewed as disproportionately affecting this specific group, as it restricts a source of comfort and respite that they have relied on during difficult times, and which was no longer made accessible to them during the pandemic. The concern for controlling external noise is evident in the survey results, as more than 93% of the respondents reported purchasing headsets or headphones to adapt to online learning during the pandemic. Other common purchases related to online learning included cell phones and laptops to access online materials, as well as mobile Wi-Fi routers to ensure connectivity. These purchasing patterns reveal interesting economic dynamics. Affluent students who exhibit increased internet spending and possess multiple devices for online classes have invested in more gadgets and also additional internet services as backup. On the other hand, students facing economic difficulties have chosen to prioritize purchasing mobile phones, which serve multiple functions, such as a way for them to connect to the internet. It was also a camera and microphone for conference calls on platforms like Zoom or Google Meet, thereby reducing overall spending. However, the pre-pandemic realities of having an economic advantage continues to persist, as higher social classes have often utilized more financial resources to invest in educational opportunities, including buying equipment and buying additional services like additional internet connections for online learning. Issues related to both access and noise contribute to significant anxiety regarding the suitability of students' physical environments. Many students feel a lack of control over these spaces, which manifests itself in various ways. Apart from external factors like unequal technological access, infrastructure limitations, and public noise, it is important to note how the lack of control over one's physical environment is also influenced by the social dynamics at home. To begin with, only about 1/3 of the respondents have their own room. Those without a dedicated room must find creative solutions to optimize their learning spaces. This often involves negotiating with other household members regarding device setups and prioritizing internet access during specific times of the day. It is worth noting that the composition of many Filipino households go beyond traditional kinship ties, and it is culturally expected for children to stay with their parents long after they have turned of legal age. So the Filipino family is not just your nuclear family. Any household can include grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, and household help, all of whom contribute to space constraints at home. These complex household dynamics further complicate negotiations on how space is to be allocated and shared. So students without dedicated rooms often face constant changes in their physical setup. Those with limited space at home adapt to unconventional study areas in order to create a conducive learning environment. This may involve finding quiet corners, setting up study spaces in shared rooms, or utilizing public spaces like libraries or community centers if they are made available. Some students may also seek out alternative locations with better internet connectivity. Even taking accommodations at relatives and friends' houses just to connect online. The conditions of these spaces vary greatly. In extreme cases, students do resort to creative solutions like studying on rooftops, traveling several kilometers to reach cell sites for better mobile internet signals. And while these instances may be exceptional, they do highlight the dire circumstances faced by the more marginalized sectors that need to be taken into account when we do plan for our educational services. On the other end of the spectrum, as we have mentioned a while ago, more affluent students may have the luxury of multiple internet connections as backup options. In between, the majority of students without their own rooms find ways to claim their own study spaces. Initially, many students opt to convert their living and dining areas into a shared workspace. However, over time, their views on sharing spaces for classes have shifted, with many pointing out that it often leads to conflicts within the household. Another common characteristic of these spaces is that they deviate from the idealized notion of learning environments. For example, 62% of the respondents no longer use traditional desks and chairs and instead choose to sit on the floor, lie on their beds, or utilize a couch. Some find niche areas in unused or less frequently used spaces, while others who quarantined in rural areas during the pandemic opted to work outdoors. The reasons for these choices are quite diverse. Some students who have their own space express a preference for alternative postures that they find more comfortable during extended periods of studying. Others express that they find tables and chairs to be reminiscent of the rigidity of traditional teaching setups. If they don't use desks, what furnitures or spaces do they use? The main preference for many of these students is the bed, followed closely by sitting on the floor and also utilizing the couch, presumably in the living room. Other unusual responses include using the stairs, locking oneself in the car, staying in the bathroom, using standing desks, and even a student athlete reported sitting on a gym ball while using a traditional desk so that they may continue to work out while engaging in online work. Non-gadget or technology-related purchases also reveal interesting choices in their learning setup. For instance, 39% of respondents report buying soft furnishings such as floor mats, cushions, bean bags, and even curtains. In an interview, one student mentioned purchasing a curtain rod to hang curtains and create a physical visual barrier between herself and the rest of her family to whom she shares a room with. But the real story that I want to focus on has to do with the social interactions that take place in these spaces. In particular, the lack of control over space is most evident in the compromises students have to make within their family and the kind of dynamics that they have at home. Among the 52 respondents without their own rooms, 80% point to at least one family member who they identify as a source of distraction during their studies. Nearly half of these respondents, about 48%, express concerns about their younger household members, with about half of them finding it challenging to strike a balance between supporting the educational needs of their younger siblings with their own studies. In the case of one of the respondents, she was finding it difficult to balance her own studies with the needs of her own child, whom she had in an early pregnancy. In addition, distractions can also come from non-human family members. For instance, pets affect a significant number of respondents, with over a third being responsible for taking care of their household pets. Originally, I classified taking care of pets as a chore, but a number of respondents consider their pets as part of the family and integral to their socialization processes. Other distractions, and perhaps I'm going to be going a little bit off tangent here. Other distractions include engaging in different online activities such as playing games, streaming videos and music, checking social media accounts, or simply browsing the internet. These may include watching television and listening to music. But I think I'm getting old with the categories I have in my head, since many students consider watching TV and listening to music an internet-related activity because of new streaming technologies. Originally, I considered these things as part of traditional non-digital mass media. So there might be something faulty with these numbers. Nonetheless, the temptation to do non-educational internet-based tasks is a strong distraction for many of our students. Furthermore, many students also juggle their studies with household chores. These tasks can range from cleaning, cooking, doing laundry, to taking care of younger or aging family members, such as grandparents who require assistance and attention. While some students have been helping with these responsibilities in the past, the lack of separation between home and school now requires them to take on these roles more frequently than necessary. An important aspect to focus on is the contentious nature of many of these spaces, which may not be apparent in the surveys but become more evident during interviews. As I said earlier, some students who share physical spaces and resources with younger siblings may feel that the online spaces they occupy have been primarily designed for children of a younger age group who receive more attention and support from parents and other family members during online learning. For one, younger siblings may have easier access to shared devices like laptops or tablets, and older siblings, on the other hand, may feel that they have disproportionate access to the same devices which they have to share with their younger siblings, leading to disruptions in their own learning schedule or limited access to online resources. Most importantly, parents also prioritize assisting younger children with their online classes, leaving older siblings who are attending university with less guidance or support in their academic pursuits, as they are expected to be capable of studying independently at their age. Many of these spaces reflect the prevailing view in the country that treats education in an infantilized manner, primarily associating it with younger children and focusing on meeting their educational needs, while overlooking the needs of older students and the requirements associated with independent study. This educational culture or mindset tends to prioritize resources, support, and attention towards younger students, with the assumption that they require more assistance and care throughout their educational journey. Consequently, older students with different educational needs feel overlooked. And this sentiment is often triggered by a variety of causes. It can be as simple as the sharing of gadgets and spaces and time, which many of them feel could be very disproportionate when a younger sibling is involved. But it also translates to the inability of the household to provide age-appropriate and non-religious resources for things like counseling, socialization, and varied forms of cultural activities which students of this age are curious to pursue. And so this child-centric perspective on education is also intensified by how limited and inflexible a lot of home spaces are. For college students, this can translate to very limited opportunities to facilitate open discourse and critical discussions. Many students prefer to have their own study spaces because they find it challenging to engage in sensitive discussions that are often avoided at home. These discussions may touch upon taboo topics such as gender and sexuality, religious beliefs, labor practices, class conflicts, and even politics. College students in particular may be struggling to craft not just physical spaces, but also the cognitive and emotional preparedness necessary so they can freely explore concepts that may contradict the beliefs and ideals held by not just their families, but also held by their communities. The 2022 national elections serve as a vivid example of how political dynamics can impact students and their families, leading to confrontations and conflicts based on differing political affiliations and ideals. While these differences can potentially lead to productive discussions, it can also make it difficult to engage in open and productive discussions about politics at home. The implications of these conflicts extend beyond the students themselves and can impact the work of instructors who may or may not be aware that their topics, much less the discussions for these topics, can cause disagreements and tension at home, especially when there are family members who hold on to very stringent beliefs and who believe that these beliefs should not be contested or challenged or even discussed in the classes that their college student or college children take. Okay? And this situation highlights the continued divergence within universities where they serve as spaces where political beliefs and ideologies intersect, clash, and influence both students and also their families. I take Michel Foucault's notion of heterotopias as a way to understand the precarious role education has to take on this time of online learning. Foucault defines heterotopias as spaces that exist separately from the rest of society and possess contrasting qualities compared to the everyday world. Unlike utopias, which are imaginary, heterotopias are real spaces where other cultural sites are simultaneously represented, challenged, and inverted. These heterotopias can be both physical and mental, real and imagined, disrupting traditional notions of space and time. While universities and schools have been viewed as heterotopic spaces in the past, as they can exist outside mainstream norms and are also important sites where the established order can be challenged and subverted, not a lot of work has been done to consider the possibilities of seeing its functions antagonize popular social relations, particularly within the family, and especially in this context of ours where we have to deal with online learning. The university, colleges continues the work of challenging and subverting certain aspects of the wider social world, including the homes we inhabit. And the shift to online learning has only magnified this possible, but for me also very necessary conflict. Our homes are not free from making representations and legitimizing power dynamics related to matters like gender, class, race, religion, among others. And in this way, the online class acts as a site where contestation and inversion occur alongside the reinforcement of established power relations. Foucault's concept of heterotopia resonates in the transformative phase of students as they transition into adulthood, where their personal views on matters like politics, society, and sexuality are articulated through different lenses of thought found within the academic disciplines of a university. And this period of development is marked by constant experimentation, driven by the need to critically examine the beliefs they grew up with and reconcile them with the new ideas and information they encounter. However, we must question the safety of fostering discursive exchanges within the home. And perhaps in lieu of a definitive conclusion, look at this as a starting point to sway the discussion about online learning, that it isn't just about pedagogy or internet connections, devices, and technology, but also to think of our students as part of different social dynamics ranging from the family to the community and the nation, and also part of existing processes and ideals, some of which needs to be disrupted and challenged. When planning and designing courses for online learning, maybe it's also crucial to strike a balance between creating opportunities for discourse within households and then providing the necessary safeguards, especially for students who may not have supportive families when it comes to embracing diverse perspectives. On the top of that list of things that we might have to do is to have to probably stop assuming that the homes which we, both teacher and student, inhabit are not necessarily neutral and safe spaces. Most online lessons are designed with the assumption of supportive home environments, but we also must consider that even the slightest possibility that the lessons we intend to teach may compromise the safety and well-being of our students. Similarly, what are the boundaries that we should establish? It is easy to set boundaries when it comes to our classrooms because we can control these spaces. But how do we encourage respectful conversations and diverse viewpoints in online spaces where we have limited insight into the family dynamics, their power relations that can either inhibit students from becoming the best version of themselves and allow them to flourish? There is somewhat of a delicate balance that is needed when envisioning these kinds of spaces. Our understanding of online learning deepens as we acknowledge the possibility that the home is not always conducive to education. These socially constructed ideas, prevailing beliefs, and widely accepted notions reinforced at home still need to work, even if we have to break them down and replace them with deviations in some of the lessons and perspectives we aim to impart. These spaces where our students reside are no longer mere homes. But they can also be sites of rebellion, experimentation, reflection, and contemplation, where the dialogic nature of tertiary education unfolds. Another aspect to consider is the preparedness of our students. Have they been nurtured with a strong foundation to engage with discursive forms of learning? Or have they been subjected to a mandated national curriculum that perpetuates an educational system aligned with neoliberal policies, potentially limiting their intellectual growth? While the implementation of outcomes-based education in the Philippines emphasizes learning outcomes and student competencies, its aggressive enforcement and reliance on predetermined outcomes and competencies have led to excessive standardization and somewhat of a reductionist approach to education, which prioritizes the achievement of quantifiable outcomes and marketable skills over the development of critical thinking and creativity. And if they are not trained to deal with education that is given in this manner, what adjustments can we make so that the process of debate and discussion can be fostered in potentially non-neutral spaces? Ultimately, our institutions must reconsider their vision for learning and then the spaces in which it unfolds. Our homes as places where we live and study are diverse and varied in their characteristics. They are not gentrified, nor are they standardized in their design or socioeconomic makeup. Within these homes, the spaces designated for studying and learning differ and don't always conform to study environments that we idealize. Furthermore, the lessons and the educational content delivered in these homes are not detached from the contentiousness of the world around us. Education itself is not a neutral or value-free endeavor. It is influenced by social, cultural, and political factors that shape the curriculum, the instructional materials that we use, and the teaching approaches that we employ. So it is also important to recognize and navigate these complexities, fostering an inclusive and critical educational environment that encourages dialogue, understanding, and growth. That's it. Thank you. I'm so sorry about the audio. I sometimes I don't have any idea what I'm doing with the technology. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think Vin will be posting this on YouTube. I think the audio will be clearer there. So I'm so sorry for that.
Not a problem at all, Joseph. I think although there are some background noise, but I can still hear the presentation well. And I already uploaded your recording on YouTube last night. Thanks so much, Joseph, for such a really interesting information. That's really informative, providing a lot of information about online home learning in the Philippines context. So I think we can realize a lot. And even for me, during the COVID-19 situation, when I work from home, so I can certainly myself in some of your course that you show from your students. So thank you very much. I think it's really fascinating and informative. So now open up the discussion to the participant. I would like to invite you to provide comments and questions for Joseph. Maharida, she made a comment in the chat box. Really interesting finding, Joseph. There are a lot of personal insight from the participant. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, academics and educator, we sometimes fail to hear the voices from the student. Yeah, and especially the spaces of learning from home is so important. And not everyone has the luxury of having their own home, their own room. So even here in Australia. So yeah, we can certainly relate. Okay, yeah. Any comments and questions, everyone? So I'm continue to share my own story. So I think I can certainly see myself in your presentation, Joseph. During the COVID-19, during 2020 and 2021, I'm as an academic, but at that time I didn't have my own office at home. So I moved around 6 times. So in the living room and different places in my home. And then luckily in 2021, we renovated a garage into a home office. So now I'm having my own home office. So I can imagine students in Asia, especially they live with big family, share the space with their siblings and parents, so how difficult it is to learn online from home. Yeah. When they don't have their own space, and that's certainly affected the learning outcomes. And
I also want to add that it also cuts across different social classes in terms of navigating spatial problems, whether you're poor or you're rich. Even wealthier Filipinos would tend to have all of their family in one gigantic compound, but there are 20, 30 people in that house, and so sometimes sharing spaces, sharing resources can be quite problematic for many of the population.
Yeah, sure. And especially in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, and certainly in Vietnam, we can relate their sharing culture. And we live in as big families. So many families, I mean, even if they are in a family, there are many couples, if a sister or brother already married, but they don't have their own homes, and if their parents still have big home, and then they can share our space together, and that will cause a lot of issues as well. Okay, any further comments and questions for Joseph, everyone? Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with Maharida. It's such an important area to look at, student voices and home learning. Thanks. All the webinars are really interesting. Okay, thank you. Then from Myanmar, right? Bill, do you have any question for Joseph?
No, thank you, Joseph. That was really, really interesting. I guess it you may be finding similar things to anecdotally what we sometimes see here is, as you say, it reaches across different strata of society, and so sometimes we have. I have heard anecdotally of students basically living in a car on university property so that they could access Wi-Fi and they could access showers and toilets and things like that. So it can be a very important issue in terms of equity and social inclusion and a whole range of things.
Yes, I agree, Bill. I actually got the same extension request from a student, who had a similar situation as your student that you just shared.
Yeah.
She said she lived in a car in Australia, and she lived in a car, and she had difficulty with internet connection, etc. with her online learning that we are delivering as you task.
Yep.
It's surprising, and we just so difficult for students in those cases, and it certainly relates to the issue of social equity, equality.
Absolutely. Thanks, Finn.
Thanks, Bill. That's a very insightful comment. Any further comments, everyone? Oh, it's just a perfect presentation, and no, everyone is so happy. Okay, thank you so much to the two wonderful presenters today, Joseph and Maharida. A really interesting presentation about mathematics education using a collaborative learning model, and Joseph delivered another wonderful presentation about home learning environment for students when they undertake their online learning. Okay, so really interesting and really informative, and we can certainly rely to the two presentation in our other contexts, especially in my context in Australia. We can relate to student context or even academics themselves, not only students. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. If you don't have any further comments and questions, and perhaps we can call it a day. Thanks so much again. Have a great evening, and we will be in touch again tomorrow. Thank you very much, and bye for now.